two major events taking place in the Middle East that the Bible said would happen. One is that there's droughts and the rivers of the Middle East are drying up, specifically in this case the Jordan River, as well as the Dead Sea coming back to life. These are two things that we'll look at in this video. This article on the Los Angeles Times from 2 years ago says the Dead Sea is dying, drinking water is scarce, Jordan faces a climate crisis. In the article, it talks about how there's sinkholes popping up all around the Dead Sea. While this article makes it seem like these sinkholes are a cause of death and destruction because the Dead Sea is drying up or its waters are being extracted, in reality, these sinkholes are leading to life and a fulfillment of prophecy. I'll get into that in just a little bit. There's many reasons for the droughts that are caused in the Middle East. Much of that is a scarcity over water and control of the water through dams in different nations, taking what they need and not being generous with the other nations that share that river source. But droughts and famines and pestilences is something that we know will take place in the last days. Whether that's what this is a sign of, we're not sure of, but we'll watch and keep our eye on it when it's happening to be aware of the signs of the times like Jesus said to be. In Matthew 24:7, he says, "For nation will rise against nation and kingdom against kingdom, and there shall be famines and pestilence and earthquakes in divers places." Much of the famines of the last days are tied to drought. So when we see articles like this that was written last year by the Associated Press, Jordan River believed Jesus' baptism site drying up, it should not be a surprise that that's what's taking place in the earth. We know in the last days when the tribulation is taking place and God's wrath is about to be poured out upon the earth, the four horsemen of the apocalypse come, and the third one, the black horse, is one tied to drought and scarcity in the earth. This rider of the black horse is holding a pair of scales in his hand that indicate the high price of food that will be taking place, and this will be because of famines and droughts that are taking place in the earth. In connection to this, and interestingly enough, there's a hadith within Islam that sounds very similar to something like this that's referenced in the Bible. And this hadith, which is a belief in Islam that is something from Allah in their opinion, something to be completely true from God in their eyes. And it talks about that Allah in one day will withdraw 1/3 of the water for the first year, and then in the second year, he'll do another third, and then a third in the third year. It says that this will take place before the Islamic Antichrist, the Dajjal, appears, and that no food will be growing, and for the third year of this, that not even a single drop of rain will land on the earth. This sounds very similar to the story of Elijah in 1 Kings 18:1. Later on, in the third year of the drought, the Lord said to Elijah, "Go and present yourself to King Ahab, tell him that I will soon send rain." This story of Elijah and withholding rain on the earth for 3 years was written and documented thousands of years before that hadith was written in Islam. And I just want to point out, it's always good to reference that if there's never 1 year on earth where there's not a single drop of rain, then any Muslim people believing in the hadiths and the Quran should really question whether that is true. And this leads to the prophecy of life coming to the Dead Sea, and the Dead Sea actually turning to fresh water and fish actually being within it. I saw this video on Instagram. I believe it's from the page zealous_82, and they're standing in a river, a freshwater river that's flowing into the Dead Sea.
All right, guys, we are standing in the Dead Sea right now. But the really cool part about where I'm standing is that as I pan here, you're gonna see I'm standing actually in fresh water that's flowing down out of the Judean mountains into the Dead Sea. So we're literally standing in prophecy being fulfilled. You can read in the caption the references from Zechariah and Ezekiel that prophesied about this. And we're literally standing in it here right now.
And this is a prophecy in the Bible that said would take place. In Ezekiel 47:8-10, it says, "And he said to me, this water flows toward the eastern region and goes down into the Arabah, where it enters the Dead Sea. When it empties into the sea, the salty water there becomes fresh. Swarms of living creatures will live wherever the river flows. There will be a large number of fish because this water flows there and makes the salt water fresh. So where the river flows, everything will live. Fishermen will stand along the shore from En-Gedi to En-Galam. There will be places for spreading nets. The fish will be of many kinds, like the fish of the Mediterranean Sea." Zechariah 14:8 also says, "And it shall be in that day, the living waters shall go out from Jerusalem, half of them toward the former sea, and half of them toward the hinder sea. In summer and in winter shall it be." So with the continual rivers flowing into the Dead Sea, and then also just like in the reference in that first article about sinkholes popping up in the Jordan because the Dead Sea was receding, and they're talking about how that is a cause of destruction, when in reality it's a prophecy of this life coming to the Dead Sea. We have these articles, this has been documented since about 2016, that these sinkholes around the Dead Sea are filling up with fresh water, and that actually fish and living creatures and birds and plant life are now growing there at the Dead Sea, really looking to be the beginning of the fulfillment of this prophecy in Ezekiel. The Dead Sea is more than 400 meters below sea level, making it the lowest point on the entire earth. Pretty amazing when you see the prophecies and the things written about this. Somebody who doesn't think the Bible is real and was just made up by people, and yet this location, of course, something they definitely didn't know, that's the lowest point on earth. It's just definitely no coincidence that it's such a distinct place like that on the earth. But worth referencing about the fresh water here also is that in 2011, a research team discovered a series of deep freshwater springs that come up from the sea floor and replenish the dwindling supply of salt water with fresh water. It's amazing to see these things take place. The Bible has these things written in it thousands of years before they happen, and then we're seeing them take place and start to within our days. Now, whether this is definitely, in my opinion, not a fulfillment of these completely, it will be fulfilled to the max eventually one day, but we're seeing little trickles of it now. Just a blessing from God to be able to witness these things. But just worth referencing is that, of course, drought is something that strikes the Middle East. 2/3 of the Middle East and North Africa is desert, and even back in 2005, I found articles about the Jordan River drying up. Also, we see the same thing about the Sea of Galilee. In 2018, it was hitting historic lows, mainly due to overuse and bad water management. But then even just last year in 2022, we see, here's an article here saying the Sea of Galilee thriving at nearly maximum capacity. So it's good to be aware of the circumstances of the earth, what's truly going on, but then to know, of course, that Bible prophecy would be fulfilled and will be fulfilled exactly how it was written. Revelation 22 also talks about a river of pure water that will be flowing from the throne of God and of the Lamb, which will be in New Jerusalem, which will take place where Old Jerusalem was, and that will run through the streets. It'll be a river of life that will bring great fruitfulness to all the plants that are growing alongside of it. And it says that the leaves of the trees that are grown there will be for the healing of the nations. This is the river of life that will be flowing from Jerusalem. These things are truly incredible to see. I mean, the Bible and the prophecies were written thousands of years ago, and we're seeing them come to fruition really right before our eyes. Even if it's just a little trickle of these things happening before the true fulfillment, it's truly still absolutely incredible. And God says that He gives us prophecy so that we know ahead of time when these things take place. It's like a gracious, loving act to know that the God of the Bible is the one true living God. So live for God, live for the one who gave us these prophecies, who gave us these things, written them down to us in the Bible thousands of years before they happened. So we know that we can trust fully in His word, and that Jesus is coming back. Salvation is found in Him alone. And if you live for Him, you will live in eternity with Him forever. Let me know what you think in the comments. Thanks for watching, and God bless.